Why were you trying to contact me?
You oppose the heretics, those that took the old machines as gods.
All kinds of organics fought Sovereign and his Geth allies. Why am I so interesting?
You were the most successful. You killed their god. You succeeded where others did not. Your code is superior.
Welcome to Superior Code. I want to just air out all of my thoughts on why I really want a team breakup. Like just a dramatic tragedy of a team breakup. Like a team that was strong as a family and they're just no longer close. And I want it to be because of a betrayal from one of the companions. I want a game to just break my heart. I haven't had a game make me feel like one of my friends, lovers, companions in the group has wronged the rest of us and like broke us apart, and I really want that. I know there are moments as a main character you can betray someone. Like in Cyberpunk 2077, you can betray Johnny by saying you're gonna call Pan Am, but once he leaves, you can call Hanako instead. Like, I felt so shady in that moment, and it was great. I love when games let me lie, and do stuff like that. And then in Fallout New Vegas, you can betray Arcade by selling him to the Legion, and Boone by being friends with the Legion. But I want it the other way around. I want my character to be the one hurt with betrayal. I want to feel like I was slapped in the face by a character pretending to be my friend. Or that they really were my friend, but they threw the friendship away because they heard and believed a lie or a rumor about me that they didn't like. Or maybe it is true what they heard, or they actually experienced me doing the thing that they didn't like, and instead of leaving the party or talking more about it and expressing like, hey, you shouldn't do that, but my character goes ahead and does it anyways, they just stab me in the back as revenge for whatever it is that my character did. There was something like that in the Telltale game, Game of Thrones, where two characters will argue and you have to choose which character to agree with, and whoever you don't agree with, they end up betraying you. So I want more games to do that, and especially in games where you just play as one character, because in Game of Thrones it switches between different characters you have to play as. Or they could have just given up our friendship for something superficial like money, fame, or a ship, like Isabella from Dragon Age 2. She gets tempted by a demon with just a ship of her own. And I get that ships were expensive back then or whatever in that world, but it's still like betraying someone for a house is really weird. So, but I like that. I like that her character exists, where something like that is like she lives for the sea. She wants to own her own ship. So I like that there are characters that are just in for the money and to buy stuff and to have a fancy lifestyle. So it would be believable to have a friend that, because you can become very close with Isabella to where she gives that up to be by your side. So it would still make sense if she did fully betray your character in order for a ship. So other characters like that could exist, and I would be fine with it. I just want tragedy and drama to be so strong that it makes it impossible for the team to stay together. I really want whatever happens in the story to make the rest of the team impossible to stay together, or at least one of them teams up with you to try and find the one that caused the drama. So some examples of like little betrayals that happen in games, but it's not really what I want, but it's the closest thing I could find, is Isabella from Dragon Age 2. She can betray you by leaving you with the mess that she made if her friendship meter is low. So it's like, it's optional. It depends on you if you decide to get close to her or not, and bond with her or not. But then that's not really her trying to kill you or wanting you to die. She just gets paid for an item she stole, and she wants that money more than your friendship, so she just leaves and she doesn't care about the consequences of her stealing this important item and what of a big mess that leaves you with. So that betrayal is kind of very light. And then there's Anders, that can break up the team a little bit if you choose to forgive him. Someone will leave your team in anger, but it's a DLC character, so it's not really even one of the main characters, which is a cop-out because it makes no sense why Fenris would decide to stay with you after something this big that Anders does. And I personally don't really see what Anders does as a big betrayal towards our character personally, because he doesn't tell us what he's about to do, but he does let us know that he's up to something shady, and he can't tell us what it is. And he's like, if you don't want to help me, you don't have to, but I can't tell you what I'm doing. But he at least tells us that. He gives us some sort of warning. So maybe it would have been, like, maybe the betrayal would have been a better effect if he didn't tell us that at all, if he straight up lied, but he didn't. So I wasn't that hurt by what he did. In Dragon Age Origins, Zevran can betray you if his friendship meter is low, and he actually does intend to kill you, but unless you're like a speedrunner or someone who doesn't exhaust dialogue, then that's not gonna happen. Like, you just have to talk to him and bond with him, and he's a very likable character, so it's rare that he'll even betray you at all. And then Morrigan sneaks away at the end of the game without saying goodbye, and the game treats it like it's such a betrayal. Like, even having Alistair say, oh, we'll find her. It's like, why? Just let her go. She already explained that that's what she planned on doing. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't see that as a betrayal, but I thought I'd add it in anyways. Something I did feel like it was a bigger betrayal than that was the fact that she revealed the main reason she was even traveling with us was so that she could get pregnant by either me or Alistair. So if you play as female, then she wants to get pregnant by Alistair. I just felt like she trusts me enough to ask for help to kill her mother, but after doing that, she won't trust me enough to tell me the real reason she's traveling with me until the very end of the game. So that's what I felt like was more of a betrayal, but the game makes you kind of get over that quickly. But the game wants you to be angry that she left without saying goodbye. I don't get it, but that's what happens. Then in Dragon Age Inquisition, Solas betrays you, but it's not really you personally. He's a danger to half of the population, more than half, so like it's not really personal at all. And him leaving doesn't break up the group, so it's not really what I'm looking for. I still like that it happens though. It was still juicy to find out about Solas. Then in Mass Effect, the closest thing to a betrayal is Jacob cheating on you for the 1% that romanced him. I did romance him, but I like playing, every time I play a game, I like doing different options every single time. I'm not one of those people that find it difficult to do something different. I have to do something different because I want to experience all the dialogue that was put into the game. He doesn't say that he tried to contact Shepard at all. He doesn't leave messages. Only Thane does that, so no other companion actually tries to contact Shepard, so the fact that Jacob didn't mention that means he didn't even try all that hard to break up with Shepard before fucking someone else. So that's the closest thing you get to a betrayal. No other companion betrays you in any way in Mass Effect. So those betrayals are like the only thing I can think of where a close companion hurts you, but they're optional. I want that feeling to be mandatory. I want it to be like the main plot point of the story, or a big plot point of a story, and the main goal of the game isn't that at all, but I want that to be like an obstacle in your way towards the end of the game. I want games to have more scripted tragedies like that, unavoidable breakups with lovers and friendships. Because usually in games, if you know you can romance a character, you feel like you're pretty safe with them. They're trustworthy. If you can do that, that means they're gonna be a companion for life. And I want that to be more uncertain in future games. Mass Effect 3 is my top favorite game, number 1. But even I can admit that it felt rushed with the reasons they gave us on why our old companions couldn't join our crew on the Normandy. It felt like laziness. Like, even with how the companions looked, they looked exactly the same. They didn't even change their outfit. Like, Miranda and Jacob still wore their Cerberus colors. So it just, that felt really lazy. There were some companions like Morden and Legion and Rex that had a better reason on why they couldn't join, but everyone else, it felt like a cop-out. What Mass Effect does well, though, is it's good at making your ship feel empty when your companions die. Most can be killed off and have their name on the wall, and other companions, other characters will mention them. And even missing one member on your team can make you feel sad, and like losing Thane and seeing the room that he was always in empty, it really does make you feel sad. I just wish there were more characters on your crew that could be killed off and it'd be unavoidable. So you have to actually kill them off on purpose. Like, you, the player, kills them off, while Shepard doesn't. Like, just to make that clear, Shepard doesn't kill them off on purpose. You have to actually play the game badly in order to get that dramatic effect of losing people. And I want to feel that way in other games. I want to feel the loss and our characters grieving for what we lost, and our group breaking apart like that. When the Normandy blows up in the second game, it splits up the team, and the whole game you have to get used to this new team while you're missing your old one. Like, I loved feeling so lost and alone without the team that I knew from the first game, and then getting to grow and love this new team in the second game, and telling my story to these new characters about my old crew, and being happy to find out what happened to each and every one of my old crew members. So obviously in this, it's bittersweet. Like, we know everything's gonna be fine in the end. We know we're gonna see them again. So I want that same feeling of feeling lost and alone with new people, a new group, while telling them about the tragedies of our old group. Like, if the Normandy blew up and they all died in there, or there was a few stragglers, but they, for whatever reason, want nothing to do with us. So I really want some sort of story like that. For example, what if someone on Shepard's crew was indoctrinated and let the Collectors know where Shepard was, and they left right before Shepard was going to be attacked and blew up their ship? Or if they're not indoctrinated but let the Shadow Broker know where Shepard was because they wanted something in return that only the Shadow Broker can get for them and Shepard couldn't. So they knew the Shadow Broker wanted Shepard dead, but they didn't know why. Like, they didn't know that the Shadow Broker was working with the Collectors for Shepard's body. So depending on what that companion wanted in return from the Shadow Broker, like if it was something to help their people, like if the Shadow Broker had some sort of like information that could help Tally's people beat the Geth or something, then once we confront them, we can choose to forgive them, arrest them, or kill them. So I just think that would have made it a lot more juicy if, like, there was a reason that they were caught off guard. What if Miranda stayed loyal to the elusive man? Like, she acted angry or acted afraid, depending on if he saved the Collector base or not. what if she just acted that way like the rest of the team? And in the third game, she says she's in hiding from him, but really she's spying on Shepard, and that's the reason the Elusive Man is always one step ahead of Shepard in the third game. It would be heartbreaking, but it would give so much more complexity to her character, and I really, really love that. I would love if, like, Miranda was conflicted, but at the end of the day, she put her foot down, and she is gonna stay loyal to the Elusive Man, no matter what. And maybe Miranda herself is also indoctrinated with the Elusive Man. And it would be something that romancing her or Jacob is the only two members that break up with you no matter what. So it's like the two people that you meet in the second game that are Cerberus are the two people that the romances end in a breakup. What if in the third game Samara has to attack a renegade Shepard after her main mission? So her main mission in the third game is saving her daughters, or saving that school for special Asari. So maybe after doing that, she just kind of turns to Shepard and is like, I can't let you leave here alive. Like, you've broken the code and done some things that I just don't agree with, and I know for a fact that you did them, and by the code, she has to put a stop to Shepard. I just thought it was such a cop-out. That was the biggest cop-out, was Samara's character. Like, she even says when she joins your team in the second game that if you make her do anything like shameful or anything like, you know, anything that's bad, that she was gonna have to kill you. Like, she warns you. But that nothing ever happens at all. So she even tells, like, in the game itself, she tells you, like, oh, I'm surprised you even came to talk to me, because I would have to kill you, but right now our main goal is the Reapers. So I thought that was such a cop-out answer, was to blame it on the Reapers being more important. It's not like she was busy fighting them. She was standing, not doing anything. We were standing around catching up, not doing anything. So that could be the time of, like, okay, it's time to attack. Or if, like, you invited her to your apartment, that would be a time to attack where no other people would get injured. But yeah, I thought that was a cop-out. I wish there was a better reason for her not to attack a renegade Shepard. But yeah, I thought that would have added more complexity to that relationship as well, and for something that we knew was coming. Like, we knew it was coming if we're playing Renegade. So I felt like the game needed more punishments for us playing Renegade, but there really wasn't any. And what if in the Outer Worlds, Ellie turned you in for money and escapes before you find out? Because you know where the scientist is. So I say that because she's the only companion that talks to you after certain points in the game, asking why you give a fuck about doing the right thing and why not just leave and save yourself. So there's a lot of, like, talks about morality with her, and obviously it's for her character development, but it would be kind of cool if, like, in the end she actually stood by what she believed in and what she grew up believing in. Because of how she grew up with shitty parents, and it's amazing that she came out a way better person than them, even though that her as a better person, she's still a scumbag, right? But she's not a total loss, otherwise she wouldn't be part of the crew. So she has some sort of, like, she still has a heart. So it would be kind of cool to see if, like, she actually stood by and acted like a true rich person in that world and turned me in for money. I can't explain how much I loved the confrontation with Rex if you sabotage the cure for his people. Like, I loved it. I loved that drama. Like, not for that specifically. I wish there was, like, another reason why there would be confrontation. Like, I feel like the first confrontation wasn't that dramatic, because I didn't really become that close to him in the first game. It wasn't until I've played the whole trilogy once that I started to really like Rex's character. So when I played the first game again, it hit different because I knew how our friendship was going to develop, so I cared about him more the second time I played the first game. But that confrontation with Rex in the third game for sabotaging the cure, I really wanted more. I wanted more drama like that with other characters. Like, imagine that happening with Samara and Miranda and Ellie from the Outer Worlds, and you're the one who was wronged. Players can, like, replay a game while knowing what's about to happen and still feel the effect of, like, the lead up to the betrayal, to the tragedy of that one character or the whole group betraying you, and enjoying it. Like, we can love a tragic story while the character we're playing as hates every second of it. That's the whole point. It's kind of like a tragedy porn in a way. And I still romance Thane while knowing he's dying from an illness, but still enjoy the moment, the meet cute, and the moment of, like, spending time with him. And I can still play Dragon Age Inquisition while knowing what Solas is going to do. So after knowing the twist, it doesn't ruin the experience of replayability. I never played Final Fantasy VII, but I know there's a companion death that is unavoidable and it shocked players at the time, and I really want more of that in games, but on the level of their death forces the rest to split up, and the death was caused by someone in the group. So the main reason I'm even, like, thinking about all this was because I was replaying the Outer Worlds, and I was listening to Nyoka's backstory about her group of friends before she joined my group of friends and became part of the family. So listening to her tragic backstory of how they all died one by one made me want to be the main character as her, or as Garrus and as Javik. So it made me think about how there really isn't any other games where you have all of your friends dying one by one and it being canon. So she has 2 members of her team that abandoned the rest for a better life. So even though they wanted a better life, and you would think that's what she wants for them, but it's still a betrayal to her because they lied for the reason they were leaving. So they left off-world to another world, and they never planned on coming back. Well, she thought that they would, and then she ends up being the only survivor. So, and with Garrus, he actually has the story that I want. He has someone in his own group that he became close and friends with betray him and everyone else, and they ended up dying, and Garrus was the only survivor, and he just wants revenge to hunt down that one teammate that caused it. So I really would love to play as Garrus and see how close he was to everyone, because he can talk about them, but if we don't actually experience it, it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind with us. But Garrus is actually struggling. He's actually, like, in trauma, and we can't understand it unless we experience it too. So yeah, I really, really would love to see his story in, like, a flashback or even a novel or a DLC. Something would have been nice to kind of connect more and really understand what he lost. And then Javik, who was a commander of his own squad as well, he had to kill them one by one, hunt them down, because they were mind controlled, they were indoctrinated. So, and that's really affects him so much. Like, he remembers that he did that, but he doesn't remember it in full detail, like making him relive it. And there's a device to where if he touches it, he'll remember everything like it just happened. And if you have the option to convince him to do that, he'll be suicidal. So it really affects him. So yeah, after this war, where all he knows is war, so that's why he's suicidal while Garrus isn't. So yeah, I would really love to be a main character as Javik as well. So if we were able to play as Nyoka, Garrus, and Javik, their story would feel more intense and hit so much more harder in our emotions if we can actually experience it, or at least see what happened, than just hearing them talk about it. Like in The Last of Us 2, when you kill off the enemy's friends one by one, and then later the game makes you play as the enemy and experience the friendship they had with each one leading up to the death by you, it hits so much harder. Like, it made me feel so fucking happy to see what family I was tearing apart. Like, that's not what the game intended at all. Like, it totally intended the opposite, where it was supposed to make you feel sorry for them and make you see both sides. And that's what the game did for most players, or a lot of players, I should say, half of them. But the other half, I was one of the ones that I was like, ooh, the kills felt so much more sweeter knowing how close they were, knowing what I took from them. So it was just kind of like, oh, you kill one of my friends, well, I'm killing all of yours. I felt so much more powerful knowing the bonds that I was cutting short. All the lives I was cutting short because they decided to fuck with us. So, but I'm sure the game would have made me feel exactly the way that I was supposed to feel. I was supposed to feel sorry for them. I'm sure it would have done that if The Last of Us 2 wasn't a part 2. If it was a new original story where I didn't already have a strong love of the characters from the first game. So new characters just didn't stand a chance if they were going to start off as my enemies. So I played the first game since it came out in 2013 over and over and over again. I probably played it 3 times each year. So I have grown fond of these characters. So any new characters just didn't stand a chance as my enemies, just didn't. So, but I can appreciate what they were trying to do, and I see what they were trying to do, and it would have worked if I didn't have a strong biased bond with the characters from the first game. So it could have totally worked. It could have been the game I actually wanted if it was an original game. So please make this story again, but with a different series, please. Anyways, so for another example, I'm gonna do a small spoiler for the show The Boys. So in The Boys, Soldier Boy is betrayed by his whole team, and he wants revenge and hunts them down one by one. And he deserves what happened to him. So that's all I'll say about The Boys. No more spoilers on that. I just wanted an example of, I would love if we played as a main character in a game where we're a villain and we deserve to be betrayed. We deserve to be stopped, and our whole team, if not just one, but our whole team decides to kill us and acts like they're our friend, but they're really not. And that would be so dramatic and fun. So I would just love to play as a character who isn't a good person, because there's not much of them. But that is a different topic that I want to talk about in another ep, about playing as a villain. But I did want to mention that feeling of being betrayed by a team member can happen to a good or an evil character. And I don't mean evil or bad characters as in you're a criminal and you got betrayed by an undercover cop who you thought was your friend. Like, no. I mean, like, within the criminal world, you were still betrayed because even by their standards, you're evil to them. Like, you are not a good person. Like, the honor amongst thieves, you have no honor. So even amongst them, like, I would love a game like that. And I know it might be an unpopular opinion, because I can imagine people outraging towards a game if it turned out this game they were putting hours into, and just for the companions to all turn on your character and betray you, or even if it's just one that tricks you but leaves you with a mess and destroys your family in the game. But I really want a game to chance it and be brave enough to have a story like that, because Final Fantasy VII is well loved. People love it, even though the first time they play it they might feel annoyed that they spent so much time leveling up that character that dies, only for them to like be gone from the game and you're just stuck with all these other characters that you didn't level up. But it's such a small moment to where a forgivable moment in the game to work well with the story and to make you more invested in stopping the bad guy. So that could be done too if it was done again, you know? Hopefully I'm making sense that yes, I feel like it would be unpopular to do it now, but the fact that it was done before and was well loved, maybe it can be well loved again by doing it again. I feel like I said, once you know in a game that you can romance a character, you pretty much feel safe that they're going to stick with you until the end. And I want that safe feeling to kind of go away. I want the game to trick us into like I want it to trick experienced players. I hate when people complain about something being a waste of time just because the story didn't give them what they want, didn't give them the happy ending. Like, the whole journey could have been so enjoyable, so fun, but the last 10 minutes of a movie can really ruin it for someone, and I really hate that mentality. I hate how the rest of the movie was just erased because they didn't get the happy ending that they wanted. So I feel like stories should teach people to enjoy the happy moments before something ends it, instead of people believing that life is fair and good people get a happy ending, because that's not always what happens. And I just, obviously I'm not saying delete or stop making all of these stories with happy endings. They can still be around, but can we at least make room for tragic endings and applaud them, instead of rolling your eyes and telling people to stay away from that movie or stay away from that video game because it has a sad ending, don't play it. So I really want there to be more games to be brave enough to not have a happy Disney ending. It's like how in Mass Effect, Liara will explain how her people look at life when dating other aliens that don't live to be 1,000 years old. She says, it's not about how much time you have, it's about what you do with it. So that could be like a lesson that people should have when they're playing their game, that it's not a waste of time seeing you be happy with a companion just to know that they're gonna betray you. Like, that happy moment in that moment was good. It wouldn't be a waste of time or a waste of a friendship. It's not a waste to have a character on your team that helps your team get through a fight, a heist, or a war. Like, without them, your team wouldn't have been able to get where you are, get through a struggle, even though it's ending with them stabbing you in the back. So, it makes the character complicated, but that's not a waste of time. When it's written well, instead of just for shock value, it can be really, really good. So it's like the happy moments could actually be real moments that they are actually experiencing with your character. Well, even though in the back of their mind they're conflicted and maybe they're like, maybe I shouldn't betray them, but in this moment they're happy with you. So it's not like, it doesn't always have to be fake laughter, fake smiles. It could actually be genuine, but at the end of the day they're gonna stick to their plan and betray you. We could have complicated stories like that. Not to say if there's a story where it is fake smiles that it would be bad writing. That's not it at all. But it just goes to show that their character can still be a big, meaningful plot in the story, where even if they're fake smiling with you the whole time, the fact that you need their help in order to get past an obstacle, they still helped you in that moment. Like, if they help you from getting killed by one enemy in order for you to be delivered to another, they still helped you in that one enemy. So if they didn't exist and the second enemy didn't exist, you would have been killed by the first enemy. So stuff like that that makes the story dramatic and complicated is really exciting to think about for me. And like I said, Ellie from The Outer Worlds, she had the perfect clues to make us think that maybe she'll leave early. So she would have been the perfect character to actually betray us and it not be shock value. We would have had the little clues and warnings of her character. And I don't want the tragedy to come from an outside character. I want it to be a friend from within the group. I don't want it to be like The Last of Us 2. I want the revenge to really hurt. I want it to be really painful. I want to like both sides from the start. I want evil teammates that can't be changed with the power of friendship or the power of a speech check. Like, I love horror movies, so maybe that's gives you an idea of like why I'm like this, but if you know any games that is exactly what I'm asking for, then let me know the title of the game. Just don't say which characters betray me, just so I don't get fully spoiled and I can enjoy it. But thanks for listening.